Hi everyone, this is Jessica Kintner, and in this video, I'm going to talk about return values in functions in Python. I'm working in Google Colab. I'm going to type along as I talk, and I highly recommend that you open your own Colab session and type along with me. So the first thing I want to do is just define a really simple function. Comment here, and the actual function. Def is the Python keyword for function. I'm just going to call it square, so that's my name. We're going to pass it a value. Oh, I want to call it var in. No, let's save that for later. Let's call it x, and we need the colon. When I hit return, it does the right thing. It's tabbed in. That tells me this is the body of the function. And I will say return x squared. So it does kind of the obvious thing. Now I can type square 3, and we get 9 exactly as we expect. Sometimes I like to use variable names, so you can also say y equals square 4, and then print y. And that works exactly as expected too. You can also use it, one of the powerful things about functions, now this is a really simple one, so it doesn't help save a lot of typing, but you could define something really complicated there instead of square, and you could use it in the middle of a calculation. So you could say square of 3 plus square of 4. Those of you who will recognize this as the hypotenuse squared of a triangle, right? One side squared plus the other side squared gives me the hypotenuse squared, so that should be 25, which is 5 squared. So that works. So you can use it just at like a variable name, even though it's the return value from a function. Then you can also, you can also define strings as well as numbers when you make a function. So we could define a function called getFirstName from a variable I'll call fullName. So I'm expecting, now this is a thing we in my class don't know if-thens yet, so I can't do a very clever if-then. So you might say fullName must be written like first and a space last, because I'm going to split on the space. So I need to have that space in there. So one way to do this is to say first comma last equals full name dot split. So I'm splitting the string, and I leave empty parentheses to indicate that I split the string on the empty part. And now I'm going to say return first. So I only want to return the first name. So now if I try get first name on my own name, which is Jessica Kintner, I need the space in there for this to work because it's going to split on that space. And it returns Jessica, exactly as we expected. So just my first name, and Python puts it in single quotes so that you know that it is a string. I'm going to define that as a like I used the y up there. I'm going to define that as a variable. My first equals get first name. I'm retyping the whole thing. I just don't want to keep retyping it, so that's why I'm doing this. Kintner. And then, so now I just have this variable name made. Now you can do anything that you could do with a regular string. So if I say my first and then 4, it should return the fourth, the 0, 1, 2, 3, fourth, the fifth, I guess, character in that string. And indeed it does return the I. So because Python starts with 0, so the 0 is the J, the 1 is E, 3, 4 for the two S's, and then the 4, the integer 4, which is the fifth letter, is the I, exactly as we expect. So all the things that you can do with any other string, you can do with this return value, which I set equal to my first. So you can also do the things like 10 times my first. Might need a print statement with that, we'll see. Nope, this Colab feature, when you just hit the return on one value, if it were in the middle of a code, you would have to hit print, I think, for it to show up to the screen. So 10 Jessicas there appearing. Another thing that you can do is you can return two values at once. And there's a couple different ways to do that. So let's define a new function, area perim for perimeter, all one word, and I'll call the variables I'm passing to the function L and W for length and width. So assuming this is a rectangle that I'm going to find the area and the width of. So area equals length times width, oops, and perim equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Oh, it keeps doing that for me. And then I want to return both of those. There's a couple different ways to do it. Because Python accepts two inputs at once, I'm going to do an example where I do it both ways, but I'll return area and perimeter. Okay, and that's the end of my function. Then in my next, I can call this, but I need two variables. I'm going to say a p for area and perimeter equals area perim, and let's say, let's see, what do I want? I want my 3, 4. I'm always using a 3, 4 right triangle. This is a 3, 4 rectangle. Let's see what we get. Oh, that time it didn't print it. Print a comma p. There we go. So we get 12 and 14. So 3 times 4 is indeed 12, which is the area, and then 6 plus 8 would, in fact, so twice the length and twice the width, gives me the 14. So that is definitely correct. And you can peel them off one at a time. A shows up as 12, and P should show up as 14. Shift return to actually execute the code and then go to the next line. Oh, I said there was a second way to do that. I kind of like, now Python can handle that, can handle the two inputs going at once. I kind of like, because this way the user doesn't have to doesn't have to know ahead of time that it's going to return two values. I kind of like, oh, can I do that anyway? Both equals area perim. Let's see, we did 3 and 4. Let's do 4 and 5. Print both. Did not crash, that's a good sign. Okay, so it puts them into a list for you. So both, print both. And then the square brackets, again, indicate the, actually I probably want a 0, don't I? So the 0th value in that list is 20, and the 1 should be the other one, both, and 1 with the square brackets. Yes, indeed, we get the 18. You could also do that within the function if you wanted to. Let's define a new function, define area volume, let's say for a sphere, say. And in that case, all I need is the radius. Sure, why not call it radius? I guess it's just slightly more typing. So the area of a sphere, oh, I have to import math. The area of a sphere is 4 times pi times radius squared. Let's go up and import math. From math, import star. That's a funky way to do it, so I don't have to put math.pi. From math, import star, define area volume of the radius. Area equals 4 pi r squared. Volume equals 4 divided by 3 times radius cubed. that's it for my function. And now we can say, oh, I didn't return it. That's an interesting thing to show too. Print, I screwed that up. Area volume of 2. It returns none. It returns none because I forgot to hit the return value. That's something I wanted to show anyway, so that's just a perfectly happy mistake. So I'm going to cut and paste it again so that I don't have to mess up. That way you'll be able to come back, look at this Colab file, and it will be in the order I did it. So I just cut and pasted it so I could write it again. And this time I'm going to return area and volume. So we can say a v equals area vol of 2. Print a v. There we go. And they're real numbers, of course, because of the pi. So the value of pi went in there, and pi r squared, we can calculate that out. R squared is a little over 10, is a little over 9 because it's a little over 3, and then times 4. So 50 seems to be in the right ballpark. So that sounds about right. And then again, the 4/3 divided by 3, so you get much smaller. And then this time would be the r cubed. So those look like they're reasonable values. So that seems like a good place to stop. So that's just a little bit about return values in functions in Python.